Before I invite our lunch keynote speaker to share a few words, I want to take this opportunity to thank and recognize one of our amazing sponsors for the MVP Summit here, but also, more importantly, the MVP work working with student mentors in school districts across the state of Iowa. Binnie LeHew has spent almost her entire career working in the area of public health. And is one of our state's go-to persons, leading experts around prevention, around public health and engagement. She works with multiple agencies and organizations across the state to have conversations like the ones we're having here today. And it's through funding through her office that we're able to provide and support the resources for today, from the facilitators to the lunches to the materials to our speakers. So I would like to ask Binnie to say just a few words to you. So help me welcome Binnie to the stage. Binnie.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am so happy to be here because I was here last year and there was half the size of this group. You've doubled, and look at all the great young faces. I am just so thrilled that we can support an event that develops leadership among our youth. You can tell by the color of my hair that I've been around a few years, and I've been part of the movement, the anti-sexual assault and domestic violence movement, since before women ever talked about it, and I love to see the changes and the culture, and you all are part of making that happen. I just want to give you a couple of pieces of context. We at Public Health believe that violence against women is a public health issue because it affects so many people. Nationally, 1 in 2 women will experience some kind of forced violence, physical, sexual stalking in their lifetime, and 1 out of 5 men. In Iowa, our numbers are not quite that big, but as you can tell, that's a lot of folks. And we can't just treat it as one other issue. It's as big as our trying to deal with obesity prevention or other issues in public health. So we really want to do what we can to see the culture change so that we can see a day when there is no more interpersonal violence against peers or anyone. So I applaud your work. I am thrilled that you're interested and very glad that we could be in partnership with the Center for Violence Prevention. Have a great rest of the day.
One of the benefits of my job is to work with amazing partners across the state. You just met one of them, Binnie LeHew. Our next speaker here for the lunch is a friend, a colleague, someone that I've enjoyed working closely with these last few years. Many of you are very familiar with the Iowa High School Athletic Association as well as the Iowa Girls Union and know of the great work that they do to help provide the activities and support all the extracurricular activities that our high schools and some of our middle schools enjoy. It's a privilege and an honor to have Chad Elsberry with us here this afternoon, and also appreciate and I know that the breakout activities that he's engaged in are fun, dynamic, and I know that they're really enjoyable. So if you get a chance to, if you haven't yet, check out Chad's breakout session here after lunch. With that, help me welcome Mr. Chad Elsberry to the stage. Thank you.
Well, I'm the keynote at lunchtime, so I have 3 jobs. One is to keep you awake. Number 2 is to impart a little bit of wisdom. And the third and most important is do not go long because we have to get to the next breakout session. So I'll try to do all those. I'm with the Iowa High School Athletic Association. I'm an assistant director. I've been with the Athletic Association about 17 years. And in that time, I've been involved with almost every facet of our operation. In the last decade or so, I've been involved with student services, and we call it educational services. And I've been fortunate in the last few years to work with Dr. Alan Heisterkamp and the Center for Violence Prevention and work with the MVP program, but also the Coaching Boys into Men program, which will be doing some trainings, 6 trainings around the state this year as well. And in my time with the Athletic Association, I was thinking about the different state tournaments I've been at. I was just at one this last weekend. We had 4A state championship golf, and I think we even have a golfer here from at least one of the schools. And I've been to a lot of those state championships, and over those 17 years, I think I've been a part of 3,700 trophy presentations, where a state championship trophy is given, or a runner-up, or a second place, or a third place. And I've seen the highest highs in terms of happiness and satisfaction, and some of the lowest lows in terms of last-second defeats. And I always try to find a way to find the synergy between athletics and sports, but all activities that students are involved with, and also the work that we're doing with MVP and Coaching Boys into Men. I think they do have synergies. I think they do go together, and I think it's important that for those of us in the athletic world, we realize that we have an opportunity to impart to young men and to young women a skill set that they can use with programs like MVP or Student Council or any other behavioral programs in their schools. And so I'm just going to spend about 5-10 minutes talking about a word I've heard a lot in athletics. And I've heard it a lot this year, too, with our political season. And that's the word pride. And I've heard political candidates talk about being proud of their record. I hear coaches talk about their team playing with pride. And sometimes I wonder if we throw that word around just a little too much, kind of like sportsmanship. We all say sportsmanship's important, but sometimes we have a hard time defining what it is. And I think pride's kind of like that. But I think it's important for us to understand, here's a dictionary definition of pride. A feeling or deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements or the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated. It's a nice description of pride, but it really doesn't tell us, how do we get it? How do we live a life that we can be proud of? How do we interact with our peers and our teammates in a way that we can be proud of? How can we do that? And I think the best way is to think of pride as a process, not an outcome. I think often when we talk about pride, we talk about it as an outcome. At the end of a contest or in a political season, the past accomplishments of a candidate. But I think it's really a process. It's a process of how you live your life every day. And every day when you get up and you're met with different questions and situations, how you resolve those. And so when we think about pride, I ask you to think about it this way. What's your purpose? Do you respect yourself? Do you respect others? Are you intentional in your actions? Do you say what you're going to do and follow through? That's part of being intentional. Are you determined? When you face obstacles, do you pick yourself back up? There's a buzzword going on right now in psychology called grit. And there's a psychologist, Angela Duckworth, who has written a book about grit. But grit's kind of the new way of saying determination. I realize that there's some other aspects to it, but determination is when you face those obstacles, when you face difficulties, do you keep on going? And I think maybe the most important part of that process of pride is, are you evolving? Are you willing to learn new concepts and new ideas? For the Athletic Association as an organization, we've been around 112 years. It took us 108 years to embrace the idea and the concepts that the MVP program puts forth. But that's evolving, and that's changing. And I think that's important. So think of pride as a process, not an outcome. Let's take the first one, for example. What is purpose? We have any football players in the room? Raise your hand if you're a football player. I know I saw some earlier in the breakout session. We got a few. And I know we have other sports and other activities like music and speech theater, debate. If you think of a football game, this Friday night, we're going to have football games all around the state of Iowa. The goal of that football game is to win, and that's fine. But the goal of being out for football, or the purpose for being out for football, is much different. The goal is to win the game, but the purpose of being on the football team is to learn dedication, to learn respect, to learn teamwork, to learn honesty, to come together as a cohesive unit. This idea of goal versus purpose. And so for those of you who are involved in activities, not just athletics, but speech, theater, debate, music, 4-H, FFA, whatever activity it is that you're involved with, I ask you a simple question. What is your purpose? I know you're involved in MVP or you wouldn't be here, and that's great. But how are you using that in your other activities? How are you using the tools of bystander intervention in your other activities? How are you finding the synergies between what you know from the MVP program and what you're doing in your daily life? What is your purpose? Ask yourself a few simple questions. Why do I participate in activities? Why do I practice the way I do? How does it feel to be my teammate? How does it feel to be my classmate? How do I define success? How does it all fit together? That's part of that synergy. And how does it feel to be my friend? Or maybe more importantly, how does it feel to be someone that I ignore? Those students that you walk down the hallway every day at your school, maybe an underclassman if you're a sophomore or junior or senior, that student that you don't know his or her name, but you see him, how does it feel to be that student, the one that you ignore each and every day when you're at high school? That's part of your purpose. That's part of living a life that I think involves pride. So what is your purpose as a leader on your team, at your school, and within your group of friends? And how can you extend the bystander intervention and the concepts of MVP into your everyday life? That's my challenge to you from this brief lunch keynote speech. Remember, pride is a process, not an outcome. It's how you go about living each and every day. Do you live with purpose? What is your purpose? Do you respect yourself? Do you respect others? Are you intentional in what you do? Do you have determination? And are you evolving? Are you willing to change, to learn, and to grow? And I know you are, otherwise you wouldn't be part of the MVP program. I congratulate you with your efforts. I wish you well in the future. And it's my time to finish so you can get to your next breakout session. Thank you.
All right. So